So something is radically needs to be altered in the way that the government is organized, set up, run, its relationship to its citizens. Do you see a world where the United States breaks up into like 4 countries?
No, I don't see that happening because strategically, the government understands, and all of the states understand, state governments understand too, we need to be one unified country. That's what made the Civil War worth it. The Civil War, we're only paying lip service to what the Civil War was really about. It wasn't about slavery. It wasn't about abuses among races. It was because the government of the United States understood that states needed to reach from coast to coast. That's what we needed. It wasn't even about states' rights. It was about we needed to unify consistently because as a one single country, we would always be safer than if we were north and south or east and west or something else. Right now, the United States only has 2 borders that it has to worry about, Mexico and Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Replace us with something like Israel, replace us with something like Jordan, replace us with something like Russia. You have multiple countries at your borders all the time. You're always at risk. Somebody somewhere for some reason could invade, sneak a bomb across, steal, who knows what. So we needed one unified country from coast to coast because that gave us the oceans as our buffer zone. So,
but the reason they wanted to leave I hear that. I mean, it's when you go look at like what President Tyler, and I think it was Tyler or Polk, he's the one that's like, we got to invade Mexico. We got to take California because we need that Pacific route. We need the protection of the Pacific Ocean, but also access to the Orient, the Chinese and Asian markets for trade. But the reason the South wanted to split up is because we were like, we don't want to be surrounded by slave states. So that's the reason they wanted to break up. So it was about keeping the Union together, but we can't have this slavery thing anymore. It's the question of
the South wanted slavery.
I know. And we did not want to be surrounded. They wanted to keep pressing slavery further and further west. And if you listen to what Lincoln said, we're going to be surrounded pretty soon. We're going to be free states surrounded by slave states. And people didn't want it. And when it made sense to people. It was a practical reason.
Both North and South wanted one unified country from coast to coast.
But it couldn't
be. One
be.
wanted agriculture base, one wanted industrial base, and that's where the slave argument came from, correct?
For sure. Yeah. And it's the reason that there has to be a resolution to the Palestinians, the Gazans.
For Israel, they have a different calculation because here's the major difference is that Palestinians have been marginalized for so long, they have no economy. Israel's the only economy. Mm-hmm. So when you look at North and South United States, there was an agricultural economy in the South.
Sure.
And there was an industrial economy in the North. So both parties had something to offer. Both sides had a way of generating their own currency, their own value. Palestine has no way of generating its own value.
Well, they're also kept, Gaza was basically a slave camp, more or less.
Yeah. Regardless of why, that's the major difference between the outcome of the United States Civil War and what we're seeing in Israel.
I guess, like for Saudi Arabia, if we're going to assume that they're going to be the dominant hegemon, they're like, we will work with you, Israel, but this has to be resolved. Just like, hey, slave states, we'll bring you, we don't want to kick you out of the Union. We want us to be unified, but the question of slavery has to be resolved.
Yeah, the way that Israel and Palestine resolve their issues is going to come from a mix of external countries pressuring them and somebody creating a viable economy for the Palestinians.
Yeah.
Even better, if they can create a viable economy for the Palestinians that Israel is dependent on. Because if Israel needs the Palestinian economy, then they are now in a relationship that is beneficial to both.
For sure. What could that be? It
could be agriculture.
Right.
It could be education.
They've got that. They got the port.
It could be anything. It could be travel. It could be logisticians. It could be hospitality.
Right.
It could be anything. But the problem is that Palestine has been victimized for so long.
Right.
Like they don't have I'm sure they have entrepreneurs, but those entrepreneurs haven't been taught how to scale a business, how to make a professional industry. Right. They only know how to survive. Yeah. And they've never been given land. They've never been given space. They've never been given the opportunity to be able to even explore safely within their own culture how to build an economy. Yeah. So we really will need something like Bahrain, UAE, and Saudi Arabia to protect a Palestinian state from Israel, while they also invest in the development of the Palestinian state to the place where it can stand on its own. And my understanding, my belief is that is exactly what Saudi Arabia wants, because when Saudi Arabia does that, they also have another pro-Sunni state.
For sure, ally against Iran. I'm just disappointed that it couldn't be the United States. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I sort of, in the back of my mind, I mean, you know, I studied the history of interventions by the U.S. and all the unjust wars, but, you know, yeah, it's just too bad that it's not going to be us.
The United States doesn't broker peace. If you look at our history, you'll see we don't broker peace. We get involved, we try to help, but peace isn't really in our best interest. And what's in our best interest is for all the world to constantly be fighting itself, so that we can just be stashing away our money. We can be developing new weapons that we sell to all those warring countries. We can create intelligence that we sell to those countries. Like, we want to be the big kid on the playground that sits on a chair while all the other kids are wrestling. That's our strategy.
CIA believes that all people are born with a spy secret superpower. For some people, that means they can win deals. For others, they can spot liars. Some can even seduce lovers. I built a free 3-minute test to help reveal to you exactly what your secret hidden superpower is. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, take the test, and start using your spy superpower to stay ahead of 99% of people.
Yep. And now we're just fighting ourselves, it seems like.
Exactly. Now we're like, we have a weird sort of dual personality as we sit on our little throne.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I think it's going to accelerate like really fast, the decline of the dollar. I mean, you see it. It's coming. Like the way that they're going to drop interest rates, it's going to accelerate the madness.
We'll see. I mean, I'm hopeful that it won't happen. When I see what happened in France, man, and I guarantee, I know most people aren't paying attention to this, but I was paying very close attention. And I was so hopeful that the French people would do the right thing, right? That their prime minister would bring it to their attention and say, hey, we are way too deep in debt. We need to save money. We need to stop spending on, it was $50 billion, which is a lot of money to you and me, but to the largest economy in Europe, it's not that much. $50 billion over something like 3 years, right? We need to stop spending money on Starbucks, is basically what he was saying. And instead of people doing the right thing and tightening the belt and tying their shoelaces and saying, okay, let's do this, arguably forcing a small recession on their own economy. That's not what they did. Instead, they thought it was better to oust him and riot. And
but we're no better. We won't accept austerity.
That's my fear. That is my fear.
We're not going to accept austerity.
The responsible thing for us to do as a country is the responsible thing that we would do as individuals. If we had too much debt on our credit card to pay for, we would stop having Starbucks. Or if we were so deep in debt, we would, declare bankruptcy. But like eventually we would do something that was fiscally responsible, because we know we've got to have money if we're going to survive. But politics, especially in democracies, politics is becoming populist.
So I want to know, tell us about your book. Like, why you've blown up on the internet. You've got, everyday spies thriving, but so why write a book that's hard and barely makes any money?
Yeah, it's funny. We actually wrote this book in 2020, my wife and I together.
Okay.
We wrote the book in 2020. It's been tied up. The publication was blocked by CIA for 3 years.
Why?
Because CIA in 2021 declared everything in this book classified. They said that the concept was classified, the characters, the stories, everything was still an active part of intelligence operations. And they're right. It is active intelligence operations. This book is the most current, modern espionage memoir ever written, and it made everybody uncomfortable when we wrote it. The reason that we wrote it was because in 2019, Donald Trump was pushing adamantly for more transparency in government. And our book is about an operation against one of the largest adversaries in the world against the United States. And it's a true look at how espionage actually works, how it's a team sport, how it takes multiple types of talent. My wife and I are in the book, but we're by no means the heroes of the book, right? The heroes are the real men and women who are still doing operations today against the largest adversaries to the United States. So it was important to us to tell that story, to let the world know that what you see in the movies and what you see on TV and what you hear in podcasts about how you can't trust CIA, how that's That might be one narrative, but that's only because you haven't heard the real way it works.
So then if this is like a pro-CIA kind of, piece of literature, why did they want to block it?
Because it's very, very sensitive.
I see.
It may be telling a good news story, but that doesn't make it pro-CIA. The way that we built the shadow cell operation was by modeling CIA intelligence operations off of terrorist networks. And they did not want us talking about that.
I see.
The primary reason that we were given permission to build a terrorist cell inside of CIA was because CIA had been penetrated by a mole. And CIA has never acknowledged to the public that they had a penetration by a mole.
So are we going to find out who that mole was? That's fire.
So you find out the story of how the terrorist cell process was built. You find out the story of the mole, and then you find out how the mole ended. And as a tiny spoiler, the success of our shadow cell operation is what led to the 2016 restructuring of CIA altogether. Now, all of CIA has been restructured into a group of cells, and those cells carry out operations around the world.
So it's kind of decentralized?
It is more decentralized now than before because it realized the risk that was being presented to it by the constant moles that were being fed to the CIA from Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Israel.
So that's fascinating. It's going the way, it's like how drug cartels are now. It's all been decentralized into small little nodes, if you will,
and
bands of people.
That's why we titled the book, The New Spy War. Americans don't understand that the Cold War style of spying is dead and gone. We like what you see in movies now where there's still some almighty Langley, central hub. That's not the way it works anymore. Now, the 20 years of war that we spent, and for all the military veterans out there who lost friends in the war, like I did, their lives were not spent in vain. Even though we abandoned Afghanistan, the veterans that died fighting the war on terror, they were the reason that we learned how terrorist networks worked. They were the reason that we were able to understand and replicate the strengths of terrorism and use it to defend the homeland and take the fight to the enemy. So I don't want anyone who knows the pain of our withdrawal from Afghanistan understands the disappointment, and you start to feel like our friends died for no reason. One of the huge reasons my wife and I wanted this book and why we fought CIA for 3 years to get it published was because we wanted to make sure people understood. We learned from those lives. CIA adapted a whole new methodology, and now we are still the strongest intelligence service in the world because of those lives.
Even more than Mossad.
Mossad is just more risk tolerant than CIA.
Right. It seems like you guys are certainly more moral.
That's saying something, isn't it?
No shit, dude. I never thought I would say that in my life, dude. Wow. That's fascinating. Okay. So where can by the way, what's your relationship with like the CIA? Do you have any relationship with the CIA anymore?
So we've never really had
like the suits?
We've never had a professional relationship with CIA. We have an obligation under our secrecy agreement that we must coordinate and publish. We must coordinate anything we intend to publish through them for approval. So that's why we took the book to them, why we got it approved before we wrote the manuscript. And then when we wrote the manuscript and sent it to them and we got their rejection, we tried for 3 years to work with them. We tried to say, hey, tell us what's classified and we'll remove it. And they wouldn't work with us. So after 3 years, we actually executed our right to free speech, hired an attorney, and took the opportunity to CIA. And we basically threatened them with a First Amendment lawsuit. Because my wife and I are professionals. We know that what's in this book it doesn't exist on a classified document somewhere. So if we were to sue CIA on a First Amendment right, it would fall to the judicial branch. It would become major news, and CIA would be forced to prove that the information in here exists on a classified document, which it doesn't. So they knew they would lose that lawsuit. So
they just they washed their hands of it. They said, go for it.
They said, we now approve.